This is Chris with Scale, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the diagram mode in PHENOM Portal. So when we set out to create this diagram tool, we had a lot of ideas in mind. Many of our users are accustomed to dragging and dropping diagrams to explore their model. Although PHENOM Portal has a number of different hyperlinked tools to let you walk through your model and back and forth and try to get a sense of how it feels, a lot of users still really want to see how the model lays out in something like a UML diagram. So we can take a look at that here by going into our nav tree and grabbing some entities that we might want to walk out. So let's go in here and maybe we'll grab the data link system. And we'll drag that onto our display. Okay, so now that we have that here, we can expand this to include any other entities on this diagram. You see all of these little icons here, the O's are observables, E's are entities, and we probably won't find any A's here. Click on the entity, and it gets added to the display. Now, you note that we have several different arrows pointing to it. Well, that's because there are several different data rate capabilities composed in data link system type. Also, you'll note that there are no data rate capabilities listed any longer in this list. Well, this is just one of the things that we do to keep the display optimized. So if we remove this from the display, they all return back to this list. Now, maybe you just care about seeing a few of the attributes in this list. If that's the case, you can go into edit mode and you can choose to hide and maybe just keep a couple of these things visible. So when you pop out, only the items we have selected are visible. The ellipses down here show us that there are still other things in the entity, and they're just currently being hidden. To temporarily show them, you can just click on the ellipses. We can also find the reference to this entity over in the nav tree by clicking on Reveal in Tree, and it'll navigate to where that element lives for us. And we have a number of other utilities for this. Over here, we can see how it's being used. These are all of the views and whatever generalization or specialization it participates in. Now, we've talked about adding some entities and also changing what attributes are available. Let's go ahead and add a couple more things to our screen. Okay, there we go. If you want to move the arrows around just to make it so it's the way you want to look at it, you can just click on the arrow and then you can drag it to a new anchor point. And now it's no longer crossing this other entity. Now this diagram will disappear. If you want it to persist, you have to click on Save Diagram. You can go here. New one is just fine, so we'll hit Save. And now this diagram is saved, so we can pull it back up later. Now there are a lot of other buttons up here, and it would be worth knowing what they did. Another one of the modes of operation for the diagram tool is kind of building out a new model, sort of like a scratchpad functionality. So we can drag a new element onto the screen from right here, and hey, this created a new entity called ent1. We can very simply add new observables to this entity by dragging and dropping them into its attribute area. Notice it just uses the name of the observable as the default attribute name. We can also compose other entities, either using this feature to drag an arrow to the composition, and now it's included, or we can come in here and type in a new role name and then choose the appropriate entity from the drop-down list. And here we'll try to choose data rate capability right there. So that's two ways to add new elements to an entity. Now, this entity is not saved in PHENOM. PHENOM doesn't save all new entities by default. It puts them into an uncommitted entities folder. And this is just a temporary area where these entities are held while you're working on them. The main idea here is that you can sort of use the diagram to scratch out or work out some ideas for your model that may or may not be something you want to persist in your modeling. Once you've decided you want to keep this entity, you can click commit. The list of all uncommitted nodes will be displayed right here. You can choose that and hit selected nodes, or you can commit all nodes at this time. Now, we still haven't saved the diagram, but the ENT1 node is being committed to the model. One more mode that we use the diagramming tool for. Now we can also trace out our views or our interfaces using this tool. So once again, let's grab our trusty inertial states message and drag it on here. I think we could probably clear away the rest of these elements just fine. Okay, now all of the documentation has been written for inertial states. So let's take a look at the paths here. We can click on the eyeball, and that expands out the complete path for us. So this says that the altitude AGL points to air system.air vehicle, and it goes into the air vehicle and points to location. And that's what we would expect.
PHENOM chooses different colors to show us which projection path we're currently tracing.
Now, what if you want to create documentation for a new view? Well, we can do that as well. So we can come into PHENOM, create a new view by dragging the view onto the canvas, and we can do really the same thing. We can add a new path, and this will let us start clicking through elements here. So let's say we just want to capture the air vehicle types. Let's see, flight mode. That's a good one. All right. Well, we've picked air vehicle type. Let's grab flight mode, and it goes ahead and it gives us the model. And this is the default information filled in. It goes ahead and grabs mode from the display, and it gives us a default measurement.
We can scroll through the list of measurements and just make an appropriate selection.
The platform type is how this gets realized at the platform level of the data model. So I'll just go ahead and pick one that matches the bitmode v2 enum, and we'll set this as not optional. I'll hit confirm, and a new path has been created. So this is a graphical method that you can use to create new paths. Now, once we get into this mode where we're creating our paths, PHENOM automatically changes the mode of diagram to projection mode. If we want to switch back to modeling mode, we can use this toggle to go back and forth, just like